The air inside the restaurant seemed to thicken as Asher stepped fully into the warm glow, leaving behind the reflective streets of Chicago and stepping into a world that should have been utterly mundane. And yet, nothing about this evening was ordinary. His senses, sharpened by centuries of existence, caught every subtle movement: the soft scrape of chairs against the floor, the quiet hum of conversations that now felt like distant echoes, and most of all, the subtle, pulsing energy surrounding the quadruplets. Elara had positioned herself between him and the children as naturally as if she had done this 1,000 times before. Her eyes, sharp and unwavering, held a quiet command that made Asher pause. She was not the frightened mortal he remembered. She was a mother, protector, strategist. And beneath that calm exterior, he sensed a storm of emotions that mirrored his own: fear, longing, and the weight of choices that had stretched across centuries. "Sit," she said, motioning toward a booth. Her voice was steady, but carried an underlying tension. "We need to talk, but not here, not with the others watching." Asher's lips pressed into a thin line, his eyes flicking toward the children, who were now whispering among themselves, their attention divided between him and their mother. "And what if I refuse?" he asked, the question rhetorical, yet loaded with centuries of emotion. Elara's gaze softened, though the caution never left her expression. "Then you remain outside," she said, "and you continue to wander a world that no longer has a place for the man you were, or the one you become." He allowed himself a slow breath, his fingers brushing the polished wood of the table as he studied her. There were lines now at the corners of her eyes, subtle reminders that time had moved forward for her while he remained eternal. Yet, in every measured motion, she radiated a strength he had never seen fully in her mortal years. And with the children, his reflection multiplied fourfold. She had created a life he had no part in until this moment. The booth was secluded, tucked into a corner where dim lighting and velvet partitions created a semblance of privacy. Asher seated himself across from her, his eyes never leaving her face, searching for answers, seeking clues in the way her hands rested calmly on the table, in the slight hesitation in her posture. He sensed her holding back, shielding not just herself but them. "You've kept them from me," he said quietly, leaning forward. "All these years you've hidden them." "What?" Elara's gaze drifted briefly to the children, who were now quietly observing from a distance, their sharp, curious eyes reflecting aspects of him he hadn't yet dared confront. "Because some truths," she said softly, "are too dangerous until the time is right." "And now?" Asher pressed. "Is the time right?" She hesitated, the weight of centuries in her silence. "They are extraordinary," she finally admitted. "They carry more than just your likeness. You left more than memories behind, Asher. You left a legacy, whether you knew it or not." The words sent a shiver down his spine, though not the kind born of fear alone. A legacy? He had lived centuries believing the only trace of him left in the world was in whispers, rumors, shadows. And yet here they were, the quadruplets, evidence of a past he had thought forever lost, multiplied and alive. Asher studied them in the corner of his vision. The youngest, a boy with an almost imperceptible curl at the edge of his dark hair, tilted his head, curiosity evident in the precise way he mimicked Asher's own posture. The twins, a boy and a girl, were engrossed in quiet conversation, their eyes flashing with intelligence and subtle, uncanny synchronicity. And the oldest girl, her gaze steady and almost unervingly mature for her age, seemed to measure him with the same cold precision he often used on those he considered threats. "You don't understand," Elara continued, her voice low, almost a whisper meant for him alone. "They are not fully human, not yet. You should not be here because your presence could awaken things that I have worked to contain." Asher's eyes narrowed. "Awaken? What are you saying?" "I'm saying," she replied, her fingers curling lightly on the table, "that you are not the only one they resemble. Some of what they carry is inherited. From you, yes, but also from forces you cannot comprehend, forces that are dangerous even to immortals." A cold thrill ran through him, the kind that centuries of battle, conquest, and manipulation rarely brought. He had walked the line between life and death countless times, yet the notion that his own children might harbor abilities beyond mortal, and perhaps even his own, understood powers made him lean forward instinctively. "What kind of forces?" he asked, his voice measured but edged with urgency. Elara's eyes softened, a rare flicker of vulnerability crossing her features. "Something ancient, something tied to the essence of who, or what, you are. I did not ask for this. I never wanted this. But I had to protect them. You should have stayed in your world, Asher. You should have left the past behind." A silence fell between them, heavy and thick, punctuated only by the distant hum of the city outside and the occasional clink of glassware. Asher's mind raced, pulling together fragments of memory, speculation, and instinct. The children were extraordinary. That much was clear. And Elara, she had built a fortress around them that no vampire, no matter how patient or powerful, could easily penetrate. Yet, despite her caution, there was a palpable thread of invitation in her demeanor, a subtle acknowledgement that he was needed, that he was inextricably linked to what she had built, to the lives of these children, and to the unfolding destiny none of them fully understood. Asher leaned back slightly, letting his gaze roam over the quadruplets again. "Do they know?" he asked. "Do they understand what they carry?" Elara's lips pressed into a thin line. "They're beginning to, slowly. But the less they know, the safer they are for now." Her words were both reassuring and terrifying. Safe, a fleeting concept in his immortal existence. He knew the dangers that lurked in shadows, both mortal and supernatural. He knew that anything extraordinary carried consequences. And yet, he could not turn away. Not now. Not after seeing them, after seeing her. Asher's thoughts drifted, for a moment, to memories of the time they had shared. Their laughter echoing in sunlit rooms, whispered confessions in the dark, promises that had never had a chance to endure the passage of centuries. The pain of leaving her, of being unable to reconcile his nature with their love, had haunted him for lifetimes. And now, seeing her again, seeing what they had built together in his absence, it was both unbearable and irresistible. Elara broke the silence, her voice a gentle counterpoint to the storm inside him. "I did what I had to do," she said softly. "I raised them to survive, to understand the world, to be strong without you. And yet, you are here, and I can feel it, what you bring, what they will sense." Asher's fingers flexed on the polished surface of the table. "Then let me help," he said, the words low but filled with centuries of longing and determination. "Let me be part of their lives. Let me protect them. Let me be what I should have been all along." Elara looked at him, her eyes unreadable. The quiet weight of decades pressed between them, carrying the unspoken truths of love, loss, and survival. "It won't be that simple," she warned. "There are things, forces, that neither you nor I can fully control. And the moment you step into their world fully, everything changes." Asher's eyes burned with a mixture of resolve and obsession. He had faced countless enemies over centuries. He had survived battles that would have destroyed mortals many times over. And yet, nothing had prepared him for this. The intricate, fragile, and dangerously beautiful web of human and supernatural threads that Elara had spun around her children. A quiet chime announced the passing of another hour, and Asher realized they had been speaking in near silence for what felt like a lifetime. The quadruplets, now closer, studied him with a combination of caution and recognition, as if they could sense the weight of his existence even without knowing their own nature fully. Elara rose, signaling that the conversation was ending, for now. "You need to understand," she said, "that this is just the beginning. You may think you know who I am, who they are, or even who you are, but the truth is far more complicated." Asher stood, his gaze lingering on the children. He felt a surge of protectiveness, pride, and an almost terrifying recognition. They were his legacy, his reflection, and perhaps the key to understanding the choices he had made over centuries. "Then I will follow," he said, voice low and unwavering. Because whatever comes next, I will not stand aside. And as he stepped away from the booth, past the warmth of the amber lights, and into the quiet night beyond the restaurant, Asher Vale understood something he had not felt in centuries. He was no longer a solitary shadow. He was tied to the past, the present, and the uncertain future in ways that would challenge everything he had ever known about love, power, and destiny. The moment Asher and the children left the restaurant, Elara felt the world tilt beneath her feet. She stood frozen on the sidewalk, chest rising and falling too fast, palms trembling. Inside the restaurant, the waiter cleared plates, unaware that a century-long secret had just shattered open like glass. She whispered to herself, "What have I done?" The night breeze brushed her skin, cool and gentle, but her heart pounded as if she were being hunted. She wasn't frightened of Asher, not exactly, but she feared what he would do now that he knew. After a few seconds of shaking, she finally forced her body to move. If Asher had the children, she needed to be with them. They adored him instantly. She saw the spark in their eyes, but they didn't know the truth yet. They didn't know who he truly was. And Asher didn't know how fragile their existence still was. She left the restaurant in a hurry, stepping onto the street toward her car, but something stopped her. A shadow, a flicker, a presence she had prayed she wouldn't sense ever again. Slowly, she turned. Across the street, leaning casually against a black SUV, stood the one person she never wanted to see. Corvus Hale, a vampire who had once hunted Asher, and who had hunted her, too, when she carried the children. He smiled slowly, like a man savoring her fear. "Elara Monroe," he drawled. "I see your little family reunion went nicely." Her stomach dropped. "No, not now. Not again." She backed toward her car, keeping her voice steady. "You stay away from them, Corvus." "Oh, sweetheart." He took a step forward, dark eyes glittering cruelly. "That depends entirely on what Asher does next." The world seemed to shrink, her breathing sharp and shallow. She got in her car, locked the doors quickly, and sped off, praying Asher had taken the kids somewhere safe. But she knew Asher Vale, and she knew what he would do first. He would demand the truth. Asher drove the children to the nearest overlook above the city, where the lights glittered like scattered gold. He had done it instinctively, drawn to high places where he could think clearly. The children chatted excitedly in the back seat, completely unaware of the storm inside him. When he parked, they all tumbled out of the car. Noah was the first to speak. "This view is awesome. Mom never brings us up here." Ariel stood by the railing, wind lifting her curls as she gazed down in awe. "It's beautiful. It looks like the whole world is glowing." Malachi studied Asher instead of the city. Quiet, perceptive, far too observant. And Aiden, bold, fearless Aiden, walked right up to Asher, chin lifted. "So, who are you?" Asher swallowed. For centuries, nothing shocked him. Nothing scared him. He had watched kingdoms rise and fall, survived wars, hunted creatures humans didn't have names for. But these four tiny faces looking up at him, his face carved softly into theirs, made him feel mortal again. His voice failed. Ariel tilted her head. "You're not normal." "Good." Asher managed, kneeling down. "You shouldn't trust anyone who pretends to be." Noah squinted. "Are you, like, famous or something?" Aiden punched his brother lightly. "He ain't famous, stupid. He's, like, mysterious. Like Batman." Asher's mouth twitched at the comparison. "I assure you, I'm not a man in a costume." Malachi spoke quietly, eyes sharp. "But you're not a regular man either, are you?" Asher met his eyes. This one understood things too deeply. Before he could answer, the children gasped, and he felt something shift through the air. A hum, a pulse, a shiver of raw energy. Ariel's hair lifted slightly in the breeze, not from wind, but from something beneath her skin. Asher's jaw clenched. He recognized that energy. Vampiric essence. Not enough to turn them. Not enough to curse them. But enough. His children were special. And Elara had hidden this from him. 1,000 questions rose like fire inside him. Why? How? For how long? And what danger were they in now? He stood slowly, facing the four small faces that looked so hopeful. Children, before I explain who I am, I need to ask you something. They nodded. Has anyone ever tried to hurt you? He asked quietly. Instantly, they went still. Ariel looked at her brothers in alarm. Noah swallowed. Mom told us if we ever feel scared or strange, we should tell her. But we're not supposed to talk about it. Aiden chimed in. One time, this weird pale man followed us from school. Mom grabbed us and drove away fast. She said he wasn't safe. Asher's fangs itched beneath his gums. His vision sharpened, the air shimmering with rage. Corvus. The monster was still hunting them, and Elara had faced him alone. He closed his eyes briefly, forcing himself to stay composed. Losing control in front of the children would terrify them. But inside he was already planning how to end Corvus Hale. Forever. Malachi tugged his sleeve gently. Sir, why do you care? Because you're mine. But he couldn't say that. Not yet. Instead, he took a breath. Because your mother matters to me. And so do you. Ariel stepped closer to him, eyes wide. Will you protect us? He knelt again, voice low and certain. With my life. Aiden punched the air. Huh, I knew he was a superhero. Noah laughed. Dibs on riding his shoulders first. Asher almost smiled. Almost, but the worry tightening his chest was too heavy. He had to get them somewhere safe. He had to find Elara. He had to understand everything she endured without him. Back on the road, Elara's grip on the steering wheel trembled. She prayed she wasn't too late. Her heart pounded with the memory of Corvus's smirk. When she reached the overlook, she saw the silhouettes of Asher and the children against the glowing skyline. Relief crashed into her, then fear. They were laughing, relaxed, already comfortable with him. Her breath shook. Would Asher take them from her? Could he? Would he hate her for keeping them secret? She stepped out of the car slowly. The children saw her first. Mom! Ariel screamed, running straight into her arms. We saw the whole city. It looks like a treasure chest. Noah hugged her waist. Aiden wrapped her legs. Malachi held on her sleeve, quiet as always. Asher stood several feet away, watching her, his expression unreadable, his eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She braced herself and walked toward him. When they were close enough, his voice was soft but dangerous. Elara, we need to talk. Her breath trembled. I know. Why didn't you tell me? He asked. She swallowed hard. Because I didn't want them to live in fear. Because I didn't want you to feel trapped. Because I didn't think you'd want. That is not your choice to make, he cut in, voice low. Her eyes filled with tears. I was terrified, Asher. Of me? No, she whispered. For them. He stepped closer. Elara, those children carry my essence. They were never safe. Corvus is still alive. And he's watching. Her breath hitched. I know. And you faced him alone. She looked away. I had no choice. Asher cupped her chin gently, pulling her eyes back to his. The touch was soft, careful, almost reverent. Elara, I would have burned the world for you. For them. You should have told me. A tear slipped down her cheek. I didn't know if you still loved me. Silence. Heavy. Charged. Asher's thumb brushed her cheek. I never stopped. Her knees weakened. He leaned in, forehead almost touching hers. But right now, love has to wait. Because Corvus Hale is coming. And he will not stop. A shiver ran through her. What do we do? She whispered. Asher's eyes darkened with ancient fury. We protect our children. Together. But before they could take a step, Malachi tugged on Asher's coat. Mom? Mr. Asher, he said quietly. Someone's been following us. They froze. Asher's eyes snapped instantly to the tree lean, where he saw a figure watching. Corvus. Smiling. The air went cold. The children huddled behind Elara. Asher's voice dropped into a growl centuries old. Get the children behind me. Elara obeyed immediately. Corvus stepped out from the shadows, clapping slowly. Ah, the happy little family. Asher bared his fangs. Corvus's eyes flicked to the quadruplets. Those children belong to the house of Hale, Asher. Not you. Not her. Elara trembled. Asher stepped forward, lethal and unblinking. Touch them, and I'll end you. Corvus smirked. Then you better fight hard, old friend. A cold wind swirled around them. The showdown had begun. Before we dive into the battle ahead, what would you do if you discovered your ex had hidden 4 supernatural children from you? Would you forgive or fight? Tell me in the comments. Her eyes widened, a flicker of recognition freezing her in place as he emerged from the shadows of the restaurant's golden glow. Asher Vale hadn't seen her in centuries, yet the sight of Elara Monroe with 4 children who mirrored him so perfectly tore through the calm he had cultivated over lifetimes. How could the past betray him like this, all at once, in a quiet corner of Chicago? Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want to miss it. Now, let us begin. The streets of Chicago at night were unusually still, the kind of silence that felt almost conspiratorial, like the city itself was holding its breath. Rain had fallen earlier, leaving slick, reflective streets that mirrored the neon signs and streetlights in fractured patterns. Asher moved across the pavement with a predator's elegance, the noise of the city muted to him, filtered through centuries of heightened senses. Every step, every sound, every flicker of movement in the shadows was cataloged, analyzed, and stored. And yet, tonight, nothing could distract him from the pull in his chest, a tug he could not name, but recognized instantly. Elara, her name, a whisper from the past, was alive again in his mind. He remembered her laugh, sharp and musical, the way her eyes had always seemed to see through his carefully constructed walls. She had been fire in human form, and when the curse of his immortality had come, she had been forced to walk away, leaving him with memories that had gnawed at him for centuries. Asher paused in front of the small, upscale restaurant tucked between a coffee shop and a boutique, its facade understated but elegant. The warm amber glow of the interior spilled onto the street, and he allowed himself a moment to simply observe. And then he saw her, Elara Monroe, the same woman he had loved and lost, yet transformed in ways he had not anticipated. She was seated at a corner table, her posture immaculate, her presence commanding even in the soft golden light. Her skin glowed softly under the chandelier above. Her hair framed her face with effortless elegance. And there were 4 children with her. 4 children, quadruplets, who were uncannily, terrifyingly alike him. Each of them bore his sharp jawline, his dark hair, the same intensity in their eyes that had once made people tremble in his presence. His chest tightened at the impossible sight. How could she have hidden them? And why? Questions collided inside him with the force of a storm, leaving him breathless despite centuries of perfected self-control. Memories came unbidden, fragments from a life long gone. He remembered the way she had pressed her hand to his chest during a lightning storm, her small fingers trembling, insisting he could not leave her. He remembered her voice, calm yet insistent, as she had said, "I don't care what you are, what you'll become. Don't leave me." And he had left anyway, unable to reconcile the monster he had become with the love he had felt. He stepped closer to the restaurant window, the reflection of the street behind him merging with the scene inside. The children laughed softly, their movements synchronized in ways that felt almost choreographed. One of the boys leaned forward, his eyes locking on something, someone beyond the glass. The similarity to him was unnerving, a mirror that both thrilled and terrified him. Elara's gaze lifted slowly, catching his. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to still. There was no fear, no surprise, only a measured calm that reminded him why he had loved her centuries ago. Her eyes, warm yet impenetrable, held secrets that could shatter or save him. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice low but steady, carrying the weight of authority he hadn't felt from any mortal in centuries. And yet, he replied, his tone a low, controlled growl, "I am. Some part of me has always been drawn to you, Elara, even after all this time." She held his gaze, unflinching, as if measuring him against the memories they had shared, against the life she had built without him. "You have no idea what you're stepping into," she said. Her voice was soft, but each word was deliberate. Not now, not ever. Asher's eyes swept over the children again, lingering on the youngest girl, who had a hint of mischief in her eyes. Even from a distance, he could sense the peculiar rhythm in their presence. There was a quiet power in their movements, a subtle energy he could not immediately place. Were they merely human, or was something more? The thought both thrilled and frightened him. He remembered the centuries he had spent wandering the world, mastering patience, manipulation, and his own monstrous desires. He had outlived kings, watched empires rise and fall. Yet the moment he saw her with those children, he realized how little he truly understood about the world he now inhabited, and about the woman he had loved. With deliberate care, he stepped inside. The restaurant's ambient warmth met him, but he felt none of it. His eyes were fixed on her on them. Patrons glanced at him curiously, sensing his aura, his commanding presence, but he ignored them. All that mattered was the impossible tableau in front of him. The past he had lost, the present he could not yet comprehend. Elara rose gracefully, closing the distance between them in a single fluid motion. The faint shimmer of her jewelry caught the light, a halo around her calm demeanor. She studied him with the patience of a general, aware of the storm brewing in his dark eyes. "It's been centuries," she said, almost to herself. "And yet here you are." "I never stopped searching," Asher replied, voice low and deliberate. "Not for you. Not for this, for them." He gestured subtly toward the children, who were now quietly observing him with cautious curiosity. "Tell me they are mine," he said, almost pleading, though he would never admit it aloud. Elara's lips pressed into a thin line, and for a moment, the centuries seemed to fall away, leaving only the two of them in a fragile bubble of history, mistakes, and longing. "You don't know what they are, Asher, or what they've inherited from you," she said quietly, her words carrying more weight than he could decipher in that instant. Asher's mind raced. The thought that they might carry some fragment of him, his essence, his abilities, or even the curse of his immortality, was simultaneously exhilarating and terrifying. He was a creature of the night, a master of shadows, and yet here he felt entirely powerless. Time, distance, and secrecy had rendered him blind to the truth. He remembered her laugh again, the way it had once echoed through corridors of sunlight, warm and reckless. And now, centuries later, he heard it again in the echo of the children's soft laughter. It was the same warmth, the same spark, yet refracted through time and circumstance. "Why now?" he asked, voice rougher than intended. "Why show me this? Why show me them?" Elara's gaze softened slightly, though the caution never left her expression. "Because you need to know," she said simply. "Because there are things coming that you cannot fight alone. And because it's time you faced the consequences of your absence." The night felt heavier than before, thick, tense, and buzzing with an energy that made even the leaves tremble. Asher led Elara and the children down the slope toward his car, his senses stretched in every direction. Corvus might have fallen off the cliff, but Asher knew better. Ancient vampires didn't die from impact. They adapted, healed, returned with vengeance carved into their bones. Elara held Ariel's hand tightly, her grip protective, terrified, fierce. Aiden walked beside Asher like a tiny soldier. Noah clung to Elara's coat, and Malachi. He stayed quiet, eyes darting into the shadows as though he could sense something the others couldn't. Asher glanced back at them. "We need to get you somewhere safe for the night." Elara's voice shook. "Your place." "No," Asher said. "Somewhere he can't find us." "Where would that be?" she asked. Asher looked at her with a seriousness that made her shiver. "My sanctuary." Elara froze. "You mean the Vale Estate? That place is hidden, shielded, dangerous to anyone who isn't welcome," Asher finished. "And us?" she whispered. Asher's eyes softened. "You're welcome." They drove silently through winding mountain roads. The children dozed off, exhausted from fear and awakened powers. Asher's house appeared only when he wanted it to, an old magic woven into the land centuries ago. One minute the forest was thick in front of them, the next it parted like curtains. Elara gasped. A massive Victorian mansion stood illuminated by moonlight, its tall windows, stone columns, and wrought iron balconies giving it the air of an abandoned palace. Fireflies drifted along the lawn, lighting the path toward a grand double-door entrance. Ariel blinked awake in the back seat. "Is this where you live?" Asher smiled softly. "Yes." Aiden pressed his face to the window. "Bro, this place looks like Hogwarts and a haunted mansion had a baby." Noah whispered, "It's beautiful." Malachi stared with wide eyes. "It's calling to us." Asher and Elara exchanged a tense look. Yes, of course it was. They stepped inside, and the mansion welcomed them silently. The air was cool, smelling faintly of old books and night-blooming flowers. Paintings lined the walls, portraits of past Vale ancestors with eyes so lifelike they seemed to follow movement. Ariel's eyes sparkled. "Mom, look, this lady looks like me." Elara gasped when she saw the painting. A woman with deep brown skin, soft curls, and golden eyes. "Asher," she whispered, "who is she?" "My grandmother's sister," he replied quietly. "Half vampire, half human, a rare hybrid. She was powerful, too powerful. The House of Hale hunted her. They wanted to control her bloodline." Alara's breath caught. Aiden whispered, "Is that why Corvus is after us?" Asher nodded. "He believes your blood carries power he can steal." The kids huddled closer. "We won't let that happen," Elara said, voice trembling but firm. Asher looked at her, admiration flickering in his eyes. "You're stronger than you think," he murmured. She swallowed hard. "They're my babies. I die for them." "You won't have to," Asher said. But even as he said it, the air shifted. The house's protective wards flickered, just for a moment, but he felt it. Something dark pushed against them. Corvus was close. Too close. Asher led them to the main hall, a towering room with chandeliers that glowed like captive stars, a tall fireplace, and ancient runes carved into the stone floor. "We stay here," Asher instructed. "No one wanders." The kids nodded, clutching each other. Elara stood beside him as he drew protective sigils in the air with glowing silver light. "How did Corvus find us so quickly?" Asher's jaw tightened. "He must have tracked your energy. When the children awakened their abilities, it called to him." Alara's heart dropped. "So we triggered it?" "No," Asher corrected gently. "Corvus did. His presence forced their power out early." Aiden stepped forward, fists clenched. "Then we should fight him." Elara nearly choked. Aiden's chin trembled. He tried to touch Ariel. "To scare Mom. To take us." Asher knelt in front of him. "You're brave, but you're still learning." Aiden blinked hard. "But we're not normal. We're strong. You saw." "I did," Asher said. "I was proud. But strength without control is dangerous. And Corvus is centuries old." Noah whispered, "But you can beat him, right?" Asher hesitated, but only for a moment. "Yes," he said, "but I won't be fighting alone this time." Alara's heartbeat stuttered. "What does that mean?" "It means the Vale estate protects family. And you are family." The house groaned, ancient magic responding. A glow pulsed along the floor. Circles of protection surrounding the children. Ariel gasped. "It feels warm." Malachi whispered, "It feels alive." Asher's voice deepened with ancient power. "It recognizes your blood." A knock thundered across the mansion. Once, twice, 3 times. Alara's breath froze in her chest. Asher's eyes narrowed. "Stay behind me." The doors rattled violently. Corvus's voice drifted through the wood, cold, amused, dripping with hunger. "Asher Vale, open the door. Let's end this." Elara grabbed her children, pulling them close. She could feel the house vibrating with tension, as if preparing for war. Asher stepped forward. "Come no closer, Corvus." Corvus laughed. "You stole what belongs to my house. They're not yours." "Oh, but they will be," Corvus whispered. "Even your precious Elara can't hide them now. Their powers are awakening. Their blood is calling." Asher's eyes flashed. "Then listen well," he growled. "They are mine." The doors exploded inward. Corvus stepped through, flanked by 2 shadow-like vampire lieutenants. His smile was monstrous. "Let's finish this." Everything happened at once. Corvus lunged, faster than a bullet, but Asher met him head-on, crashing into him with a burst of silver power that lit up the hall. One lieutenant raced toward the children, but Aiden screamed, and the child's voice unleashed a shockwave, smashing the creature into a wall. The second shadow vampire darted for Elara, but Ariel threw up her golden shield, and the creature slammed into it, roaring. Noah clung to Malachi, both trembling, and Malachi's aura bent the air, weakening the shadow vampire as if gravity had multiplied. Elara grabbed a fallen iron rod from beside the fireplace. Her hand shook, but her eyes were fierce. "Stay away from my babies." She swung at the weakened lieutenant. Iron burned vampire flesh, he hissed, falling back. The children screamed, powers flaring instinctively. A burst of white, a shield of gold, a tremor of air, a shockwave of sound, and their combined energy pushed the shadow vampire back, disintegrating him into dust. Asher and Corvus clashed again and again. Fangs bared, claws ripping flesh, ancient power shaking the mansion walls. Corvus pinned Asher against a pillar, snarling, "Your bloodline ends tonight." Asher spat blood. "You first." He shoved Corvus backward with enough force to crack the marble floor. But Corvus was relentless. He darted behind Asher and sank his claws into Asher's side. Elara screamed, "Asher!" Corvus twisted the claws deeper. Asher roared in agony. The children cried, terrified. Something snapped inside Elara. Her fear turned into something else. Something blazing, powerful, primal. She stepped forward. "Let him go." And if this story pulled you in, if Asher and Elara's journey made your heart race, ache, or hope, then don't leave just yet. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next supernatural twist, the next love story reborn from the shadows, the next mystery waiting in the dark. Drop a comment below and tell me, what would you do if you discovered your ex had 4 children who looked exactly like you? Your thoughts, your theories, your reactions, they keep this world alive. Thank you for watching, for feeling, for imagining with me. Until the next story, stay curious, stay enchanted, and stay tuned. And if this story pulled you in, if Asher and Elara's journey made your heart race, ache, or hope, then don't leave just yet. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next supernatural twist, the next love story reborn from the shadows, the next mystery waiting in the dark. Drop a comment below and tell me, what would you do if you discovered your ex had 4 children who looked exactly like you? Your thoughts, your theories, your reactions, they keep this world alive. Thank you for watching, for feeling, for imagining with me. Until the next story, stay curious, stay enchanted, and stay tuned.